Hi all, this is a quick demo for Heartstrings. I'll just get straight into it. So I'm going to draw some parallel lines first. For the basic version, I'm just going to draw 5 lines. Now in my step out sample, which I've got on my blog, I've started off with full heart shapes, which you can draw it that way, but I actually find it easier to work one line at a time in a continuous line. So just doing half of the heart shape and then moving on to the next line. Just touch from each line to the next, and that gives you a cue when you need to change direction. If you find it hard to think of them as heart shapes, sometimes it helps to think of it as a different shape if you have trouble drawing it. So you could also think of it as like a wave. So just the next row. I'm using an 05 for the demo because I find it shows up a lot better on video, but if I was drawing it I would probably be using an 01 pen. Okay, to fill in the strings I just work from point to point, so just bringing my string line in a curve. The first two I generally do continuously, and then I'll just start working one side at a time, still bringing it from each point to the next. That way I get that nice in-depth shaded effect. This first heart shape's a little distorted, so it looks a little odd on that side. Okay, I'll do another one. So just from point to point, and do another row, and then just work on one side at a time. Okay, so keep going like that. That one's a better shape. See how they're all going this way? This one's a little bit odd. Okay, now I just work in the negative space. You could fill it in with a pattern, lines, block it in, whatever. What I normally do is I just do a continuous line all the way around. I'd get more lines with a finer pen than I'm going to out of this one, because this is of course a lot chunkier. And you can emphasize the points if you want by just drawing a line along them like that. I'll just do one more. Okay, so that's the basic version. I've got a couple of variations on that. One is the one that Linda Farmer did on Tangle Patterns when the pattern was on the site. She did one where she flipped alternating rows, and I hadn't thought of that, and I thought how fantastic it looked. So I had to play with it, and I'm going to show you how I would do it. Okay, so just my half row of hearts again. And now I'm going to turn it over. I always like to work towards myself. So I find it a lot easier to flip my design. I want my bumpy part of my heart to touch, or the fullest part of the heart to touch the fullest part of the other row. So that's where I'm going to start. I'll just draw another one up there. I just find it easier to start where I'm touching another one. And I'm going to do another row, or the other side, I should say. So this gives you a little bit of a different shape to fill in the negative space, but I fill it in exactly the same way. So just drawing a continuous line. So I love this variation, so thank you, Linda. Looks great. Oops, it's a bit ugly there. So just drawing along those lines to emphasize the depth. Okay, and I would just do my strings on the hearts in exactly the same way. I won't bore you by doing it all over again. Alright, the next one that I'm going to do is alternating the rows of hearts. So I'm going to draw my parallel lines, and this time I am going to do the full heart shape. So full heart shape, and then I'm going to do it all the way across. So instead of going downwards, I'm going to go across. Then I'm going to do a row of hearts in the vacant lines. So I've taken up these two lines, so now I'm going to take up the middle two lines. And how I know where to start my heart is I look at the position in between those 2 points, and that's where I'm going to start it. Okay, so I would of course work across that whole row again. So these ones are just going to be half. So I know for my next row I need to start where those, to match up where those points are. Okay, so for a border I'm just going to do 3 lines for this one. I prefer patterns that I can work continuously with, sort of out from an area and in any direction. But I thought of this, and someone might like it for a border, so I'm just going to start off with my basic center row of hearts. And then I'm going to just turn it around and do a row of hearts this way. So I'm just doing the bumpy top section of the hearts. Turn it around. Okay, so I would just do my string lines for this. And I don't think it's going to work for these ones to do string lines around. I think that would look a little bit odd. You could perhaps aura it, block it in, or even just do some kind of other pattern, like I might do lines in it. Or just solidly block it.